Hi everybody. Um, Thanks for stopping by my channel to watch this video after months and months of not uploading anything. Um, it is Sunday the 8th, if I'm not mistaken. The 8th of April 2018, and I'm shooting this today. And it is Easter Sunday actually here in Greece. I know the rest of the world celebrated Easter last week. We are weird this way, we kind of follow up. Anyway, I have a little bit of time alone and I'm at my mother's house, so I thought it would be a good opportunity for me to record a video. I have tried to record about 4 times videos in the past months, and I never uploaded them because I felt they were very depressing, or they were incomplete because I was recording the video and then my boyfriend would come in the room, or I would feel really devastated, and I did not want to put on content like that. The truth is that I have been going through a very, very, very tough time in my life, and I would like to share it at this point because I do think, other people are struggling in the same way, and this has always been a channel where I did talk about my struggles. So I'm still pregnant. My due date is in a month from now, more or less. I am 35 weeks pregnant now, and I'm carrying a baby boy. Baby boys usually take longer, so you might be in labor at around week 42, for example. 40 to 42. 40 is considered the full term. In Greece, most women are induced in labor in week 38. They never let them go as far as 40. And generally, if you let things happen and flow naturally, women that are giving birth for the first time and that are carrying a boy tend to labor later, from week 40 to 42. Anyway, so still a month more or less to go. Especially the last 3 weeks have been horrible, have been very, very, very stressful for me. So what happened is that many months ago, so now I'm on the 8th month pretty much of my pregnancy. So when I entered the second trimester, you get a big ultrasound where they're supposed to see if the baby is developing the way it's supposed to be developing and so on. And it's a make it or break it sort of ultrasound. It's the meet your baby kind of ultrasound, because the baby is actually formed into what most people would recognize as a human being. And unfortunately for me, my second trimester ultrasound did not go very well because they detected a condition which is called the ventriculomegaly. So basically we have these little pools of liquid in our brain which are called the ventricles. They're supposed to be up to a certain size. My baby's ventricle, one of them, was larger basically, and this can mean various things. It can mean absolutely nothing. They don't know why it's there, and it actually has no effect whatsoever, and then a healthy baby is born. But it could indicate genetic anomalies, and it could also mean disability to different degrees, basically. They don't know. That's the brilliant part about it, is that they do not know. But it is a triggering find, let's say. So once they have found that the baby has this issue, then you have to go through, well, they suggest, they cannot make you do it, but they suggest that you have to go through different tests. So the first one, of course, is the amnio. I had to undergo the amnio to make sure that the baby does not have any genetic anomalies. and the results were great. So there's nothing wrong compared to that. Then I had to have very often ultrasounds. I'm still having ultrasounds every 2 weeks where they are monitoring these ventricles and the brain development and so on. Then I had to have a specific ultrasound to check the heart of the baby, because sometimes this is connected with congenital heart diseases in the babies, and that went for the most part okay. There were some things that the doctor could not see because I'm bigger, basically, but like 9 things out of the 10 that she could actually see were fine. And then 2 weeks ago I had to have an MRI for the baby's brain, so a very specific scan to check if there are any other anomalies other than the ventricles. We already know about the ventricles, but they wanted to see if there is anything else going on in the brain that is not quite normal. And all the results are great so far. So we do know that there is this condition, this ventriculomegaly, which, you know, in most cases it actually means nothing in the end, but it does cause concern. And I do visit 2 doctors. One of them is the guy that does the ultrasounds, so he's specialized in doing ultrasounds, and the other one is the actual OB-GYN that I'm going to be going into labor with. I feel very confident that they're good doctors. Both of them have been trained and have worked for many years in the UK, so I know that they would not be up for a C-section. I've talked in a previous video about the very high rate of C-sections that we have in Greece, which is around 60%. The World Health Organization says that a maximum of 20 to 24% would be a normal rate of C-sections. So I think it's only Greece and Brazil that has such a high rate of C-sections. So I know that these doctors are trained in the UK system. They do believe in labouring naturally, and they wouldn't guide me into this kind of major surgery thing if it wasn't absolutely necessary. Now, last week I went for my last ultrasound after having my MRI, and what they saw is that the baby is lying horizontally, basically. So it's not breech, it's not with the head down, it's horizontally, which is the ultimate indication for people to have a C-section, basically. It's still, it's not a heavy baby. It's the baby's weight is normal, and I think this has to do a lot with my efforts. So I am visiting a dietitian ever since I found out that I am pregnant, and throughout my pregnancy, from the start up to now, I have gained only 5 kilos. That's more or less 10 pounds. So I know women, I'm actually quite a big lady, you know, tall and everything. I know women that are more petite and they have gained like 30 kilos. So I've been trying really hard because I do not want to get any blood sugar issues, which I don't have, or any hypertension issues, blood pressure. So it's been going fine so far, and I'm very careful with my diet. I had to quit being vegetarian because my iron was not so good. So I've been taking supplements, of course, ever since the beginning of my pregnancy, and I've been taking extra iron supplements along with multivitamins. But then it was suggested by the doctor that I was seeing at the time that I should start eating some meat as well, which I have done, not because I really thought that it would make a great difference in terms of the iron content in my blood, but for the most part because I wanted to put my boyfriend's mind to rest. He's getting really stressed and he's getting panic attacks about my health, and he's really afraid about me. So I did this because it could kind of de-stress the situation a little bit, and he would feel better, and he would feel that I'm really trying to take care of myself. So that's all with a pregnancy. We don't know what's going to happen. I really don't want to have a C-section, of course, for many reasons. It's not good for the baby, it's not good for the mother, and it's really not good if you're a bigger person to have such a major surgery as well, and it doesn't help the mother to take care of the baby once the baby's born. But if it needs to happen, it needs to happen. It is a procedure that exists, and when there are medical reasons, it should be used, and it actually saves lives, both baby-wise and mother-wise. So we're grateful that we have the technology to do that. Well, the thing that has been devastating, though, the most for me, other than, you know, the rest of the facts that have been going on. So I got a job with a very prestigious company here, teaching English, which is what I have been doing the last years. But it was a very short contract, so it was a contract for 3 months only. And my manager, she was really bitchy. And, well, while on that job, so as soon as I got hired, then I found out about this ventriculomegaly, and I had to go all these stresses of having all these tests and having people telling me that, you know, if the amnio does not come out right, you might have to terminate this pregnancy. So I went through a lot of stress, but that was not the big thing. The big thing is that at that point, I started to realize that my mother's health was not in a good shape. So I knew that she wanted to do a colonoscopy, which is a test that actually all people should do after the age of 50, and everybody neglects to do it. So my mom is over 65 now, and it's the first time that she had that. It's a test where they actually check your bowels for any possible polyps or any possible things that might be obstructing the normal function of the bowels. So I knew there was something wrong. She wasn't telling me anything because I was pregnant, and she did not want to upset me. And she did not say anything to my sister either, because my sister is living in London. She's going through a hard time as well with her PhD. She's about to finish her PhD. She's got strict deadlines to meet and so on. So she never said anything to any of her kids. The only person that knew about it was basically her sister. So basically she had this colonoscopy, and they found something, and then they said, oh, you need to do an MRI, the full scan for the whole body, which really means that they're looking for metastatic cancers, which really means that they had found a tumor in her bowel. And she never said anything. She said, oh, well, they found like a small inflammation, something minor, and I need to do some further tests. Nothing to worry about, nothing to worry about. And then as time went by, and when it became very obvious to her that she needs to undergo surgery, she told me, and it was Saturday, and she basically told me, no, it wasn't Saturday, it was Friday, and she basically told me, well, on Monday I have to go in hospital and have surgery. And it was really difficult for me. You know, I had been facing all these issues with work and the bitchy manager, with my pregnancy, with financial instability, with life instability, you know, not knowing after the baby is getting born, what am I doing? Am I staying here in Greece with my boyfriend? Are we moving to England? What the hell are we going to do, and how are we going to do it? And now, all of a sudden, I know that she has to undergo surgery. I don't know why. She doesn't tell me why. I actually had to go through her stuff and find the diagnosis. And everything felt so rushed and so overwhelming. And I felt so alone because, you know, not even my sister was in the country, and not even my sister was aware of these things. And my mum did not want me to tell anything to my sister. I gave her one day. Eddie told her that, Mum, just because she's in London, you cannot exclude her. She needs to know. She never told her anything. And then on Saturday, I called my sister on my own initiative and I told her, listen, don't worry, because everything is going to be okay and Mum's going to be okay, and da 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 da. And she told me that the MRI had come clean, so there was no metastasis, there was no spreading, let's say, of the tumor, but there was obviously this thing in the colon and it needed to be cut out. So I called my sister and I told her these are the facts. It was Saturday, and she booked a flight for that night, and she came over. And then my mum did undergo surgery, and they removed a part of her colon, her uterus, her ovaries, and the appendix. And it was major surgery, and she's still recovering from it. And it has been very stressful and very difficult, because me being pregnant, I wasn't that able to be at the hospital long hours, and you know, there was this feeling of hopelessness and helplessness and powerlessness, not being able to actually help the people next to you. Guilt as well, you know, because I wasn't really able to be there for my mum, and she didn't come to me because I was pregnant. And I felt that she was prioritizing my health and my stresses, and she hid all these things, or she never went on time to have these tests, the colonoscopy, because apparently these things start as polyps, and once they're polyps, it's quite easy to remove them, even through the colonoscopy test. But then if you let them, they kind of grow into tumors as time goes by. And now we are waiting for the biopsy. So she had her surgery about 2 weeks ago. We still need to wait one more week until the result of the biopsy comes through, and then we will know whether more treatment might be necessary. So I'm really going through a very prolonged grieving period for months, because of all these things that are happening to me health-wise and to my family, and I have no control whatsoever on them. And they do say that you need to let go, and you know, you can't control these things, you can't change these things, so just let go. I do have an extreme desire to eat a lot of sweet stuff, because I can't drink because I'm pregnant. I can't do anything pretty much because I'm pregnant. The only thing that's left is sugar, and I can't even do that because then my blood sugar level will rise, which really means that I'm left with all these emotions that I have to deal with, and they're very negative, very toxic, and I have all these thoughts that are very bad and very hateful. And I don't want to bring my baby into the world under these very unfortunate circumstances, let's say. So another thing that has been bothering me lately is that when my mom went for the initial colonoscopy, she went accompanied by his sister, as I said. So my aunt, she was the only one who knew, because you have to be accompanied by somebody, because they give you some form of anesthesia for this test. So they need to make sure that there is somebody accompanying you back home after the test, in case you feel like fainting or anything. So unfortunately, because of very bad medical practices in Greece, a lot of doctors, apparently, when they find out something that is not so positive, when they find a tumor, that is, they tend not to tell the patient, which is illegal because in Europe, patients do have the right, it's a European law, they do have the right to know about their condition so that they can make choices. I think the doctors are actually malpracticing in such a way they do not really do it because of the patient. This is an excuse. They're going to tell you that, oh, if the patient knows they've got a tumor, they've got cancer, they will actually, they will not be confident, and this will be, they need a morale boost, and maybe being oblivious is better for them. This is bullshit. According to me, what actually happens is they have bad news to give to people. It's an uncomfortable situation and they don't want to go through it. So what the doctors did, and this was the university hospital that my mom actually wanted to take the test, so go figure, they put it in writing in very medical terminology on a piece of paper, and they gave the piece of paper to my aunt waiting outside. They indeed did say to my mom that there is an inflammation, even though they knew there was a very large tumor. And they gave it on a piece of paper to my aunt. They did not explain her anything, and they told her to keep it from my mother, to hide it, okay, to hide this bit of information. They did tell my aunt, though, that she will need to do further testing and that she needs to book a full body MRI. And my aunt said, well, you're making me upset now with what you're saying. And they did not offer any further explanation. That was it. They just passed on a bit of paper with medical terminology on it, and that was it. Now, my aunt, not being very brilliant, she decided to do as she was told, which meant that she hid the paper from my mum. My mum went and she booked the MRI a month later, because these are public hospitals and you can't have your tests as fast as you want. You can go privately and pay a lot of money. It's like 500 euros for an MRI. But people usually wait in their list, unless they know that it's a huge problem, so they probably shouldn't be waiting for a month, So she hid it from everybody. She just put this little paper with a diagnosis in her bag, and she never mentioned it to anybody. And mind you that my father, my mum's ex-husband, they're divorced, of course, and he lives in another city. He does not live in Athens. He lives 6 hours away, but he's a doctor. All right. So even when my father was calling, she never bothered to read out the diagnosis to him and to tell him, listen, I've got this piece of paper and it says this, this and that. What does it actually mean? She never did that. And I kept asking, how is it possible? How is it possible that they did not give you a diagnosis and that they just told you, oh, it's an inflammation? What does it mean? How big of an inflammation? What do we have to do about it? Why did they send you to do an MRI? I was asking these questions constantly, and I was telling my mom, you need to go to the hospital and you need to get the diagnosis. We need to know what's going on. It needs to be written on paper. This is bullshit, basically. And I was shouting about it. I was shouting to everybody about it. I was calling my dad and I was asking, how is it freaking possible? Because my dad, he has been a hospital doctor all his life. How is it freaking possible that she didn't get anything in writing after the test? They always give you something in writing. And my aunt, she just never freaking bothered to tell anybody. And the excuse is, oh, well, this is what the doctor told me. Well, what if the doctor tells you to jump off the balcony? I mean, are you going to do it? It doesn't make any sense. So I have all these feelings of resentment now for her, because 1 month was lost. I don't know if this month was important. My dad keeps telling me, oh, she should have done this test years ago, and it's like 1 month is nothing. But, I mean, I don't know. Like with cancer patients, an hour counts, a day counts, a week counts. A month definitely counts, And I strongly do believe, like if I knew, had I known, had I had this piece of paper in my hands, I would have Googled, bloody hell, Googled the medical terms, and I would have realized what it actually means, because it didn't say tumor and it didn't say cancer, because these are very popular terms and not medical. They're like two-syllable words. Doctors don't like two-syllable words. They have to write it in a fancy way. But you can Google, you know, we have the power of Google now. So I would have Googled it, and once I would have realized that the paper actually says tumor, I would have gone like, are you mad? You're not waiting for a month until you're getting your MRI. We're going privately, we're paying for the MRI, and we're getting our results in a week's time so that we can see what's going to happen. So I'm really frustrated with my aunt. I'm really resentful. And at times I'm really, really, really hateful as well. I'm having all these venomous feelings in me. I do not understand it. My mother is forgiving and my mother is understanding, and she's going like, okay, she's diabetic, she doesn't think clearly, you know, get over it, it was just a month, it doesn't matter. I mean, this is my mother, it's not just a, what do you mean it's just a month? This is a life, you know, that we're talking about, that can be affected. So I'm feeling like a very bad person right now because I cannot let it go. I cannot be good to her. I cannot be civil towards her. I cannot talk to her. Like, you know, I'm literally barking at her all the time because I really do not like her. And I find it very hard to tolerate her being here in the house. But I know that my mum wants her to be here and my mum needs her to be here. And, well, quite honestly, she might be the only one that I can actually properly help my mum through this journey of recovery, because I'm living with my boyfriend 20 minutes away, and it's not a big deal, but it is. I'm not living in the same house. And being pregnant, I can't go to the supermarket, carry stuff, you know. I'm struggling. I'm really struggling to tolerate her living in this house. I really dislike her. I have this huge resentment, and these feelings are not helping me. They're not helping me. On the positive side, with my boyfriend, things are quite okay. My contract ended with that company that I was, high-profile company that I was working for as an English teacher. It ended anyway, and even if it wasn't to end, I should stop working, because in Greece there is this law: 2 months before you give birth you have to stop working, basically. But it's like the 2 last lessons I couldn't cope to deliver them. I couldn't do it. I actually went there once to have a lesson and I burst into tears, not in front of my class, in the teacher's room, but I told my manager, I'm sorry. Literally, I'm sorry, I can't teach today, and I can't teach on Wednesday because my mom is going to be having her surgery, and there is so much going on. So this opportunity of working with them again, I don't think it's there anymore. But the good thing is my private company, which is about sending people to study in England, is kind of picking up. So I had already 1 client, now I have 2 more clients. And after I give birth, I really need to very proactively work on it. On the positive side, everybody in Athens, well, almost everybody in Athens lives in blocks of flats. So the flat right above my mum, the lady that was living in it left. So it was free to rent, and I rented it, and the owner is a bitch, and she knew that I'm pregnant and my mum had surgery, and she's exploiting the situation. So she's getting a lot more money than she should be getting. She did not paint the walls, she did not redecorate the walls, even if the previous tenant had been there for like 15 years and it was a mess. She did not clean the house, she did not do anything. But fuck this, it's like me and my boyfriend were trying to get it into good shape so that we can move, hopefully in a week's time or something, and we can start living, and it's going to be really easy from living right on the top floor above my mum. Anyway, that's a very long update. I'm sorry for this being such a long video. I really hope that I will have some good news to share with you shortly. Thank you for watching, and if you're struggling with anything in your life, I'm struggling as well. A lot more people out there are struggling, so just know you're not alone, and these too shall pass, hopefully. Thanks.